All right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching me across the states in Nigeria. It's a wonderful Thursday, despite the fact that there are a lot of distractions with certain people who keep tabs on our lives. But today we are going to keep tab on the woman folks, especially when it comes to most of the laws that have been implemented, especially in May 2015 to be precise. Nigeria passed the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which bans female genital mutilations and other harmful practices. How far has this act been effective is what I'm bringing to fore today. What are the advocacies on ground for FGM? What milestones have we covered is also what I'll be bringing to our conversation today. Again, I welcome you to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your chief host, the executive producer, name it your script writer, Kike Atanda-Owo. I think it's important for us to quickly get what on this day in history segment as for us. And when I return, we'll dive straight to the topic. As I stay with me, I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. All right, what's my takeaway from on this day in history segment today? The world is evolving fast. There is still slavery, but it's still manifesting in other ways in terms of the mental aspect of it, the ideologies that is still archaic, in terms of unemployment or employment, cultural differences. I think the most important weapon and instrument against slavery is education. Ideological slavery is what leads people to be, will I say, radicalized and used as terrorists against their own people, taking lives and destroying properties. Education and exposure is key in fighting the issue at hand. I think it's time for us to get a quick message from our sponsor. When I return, I will be speaking to my guest. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. Nigeria has the third highest burden of female genital mutilation, FGM, globally, with an estimated 20 million women and girls having undergone the procedure. This accounts for 10% of the global total of 200 million survivors, according to the National Demographic Health Survey, NDHS, in 2018 to be precise. 20% of women aged 15 to 49 years old in Nigeria have or been circumcised. And the most common types of FGM in Nigeria is type 2, some flesh removed, practiced on 41% of women who underwent FGM. And in May 2015, Nigeria passed the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which bans FGM and other harmful practices. However, the implementation of this legislative framework remains low across the states in Nigeria. Today, we will be diving into one of Nigeria's most pressing and sensitive issues, female genital mutilation and the Nigerian girl, despite global condemnation and, of course, the robust legislative framework like the Violence Against Persons Act. Nigeria continues to carry one of the highest burdens of FGM in the world, affecting millions of women and girls. In today's discussion, I will be exploring the cultural and traditional reasons behind its persistence, the legislative frameworks, enforcement. More importantly, we will have real talk around media, creating more advocacy, and leveraging journalism and filmmaking to change perceptions. Join me today, to shed light on these critical issues, as I have a brilliant journalist, filmmaker, and of course, tireless gender advocacy. But before we delve into real talk, our guest today, I think it's important for me to play a profile. You agree with me that she's the right person to throw more light on the issue at hand. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. It's important for me to quickly, usher in my guests. I want to say many thanks for creating time to be. I know that you are so engaged today with all that is happening, especially today being a significant date in the calendar of Nigeria since 2015 to be precise. Again, welcome, Melony, for lending your voice on issues that affect us all. Now, especially women, and I wouldn't say women, whether you're a man, and after all, a woman born woman. It affects everybody, every gender now. Well, Trump has said only male and female gender is not recognized. Those are the genders and we agree. So, Melony, let me keep it. Let's keep it real now with the issue at hand. As the founder of the Don't Cut Her, campaign, and I feel that with you being a seasoned multimedia journalist and documentary filmmaker, it's important for me to ask you, how have you used storytelling in making sure that we eradicate the public perception of this issue and especially when it comes to FGM in Nigeria? Nigeria is a country where we are religious inclined, so to speak, but there are certain things that I feel that we have refused to abolish when it comes to tradition. So what impact, have you been able to, to carry out in your own community in terms of awareness and activism? Maybe that's the word to use right now.
Thank you so much, Kike. And for a second I felt like asking you, you really do know a bit about this phenomenon, female genital mutilation. It lives with us, it's around us. And much as you rightly put it, that this is a phenomenon that affects both genders. It is true, because every man, at least if you do not have a wife, you have a mother, you have a sister, you have a neighbor, at the least, who is a woman. And at the end of the day, we are all humans, and we get to come in contact with this phenomenon. So female genital mutilation storytelling. So let's demystify this. If we do not tell stories, really, I do not think it's easy for us to achieve real changes in real time. So what has storytelling done? In the past, and I go 2 to 3 years, the UNFPA, UNICEF joint campaign for the elimination of female genital mutilation has harped heavily on spotlighting survivors, stories of survivors of female genital mutilation. And in my opinion, I think that's about the bravest move so far since the move to abolish female genital mutilation has been on. Why is it so? We live in a society where the culture of silence is big, one. And two, we live in a society where the culture of shame is equally big. So when you look at the culture of silence, the culture of shame, then you zero in and say it's best to not say anything. But actually the power lies in saying something. Now, who is the person saying something? I'm not just a journalist and a filmmaker who has done a story on female genital mutilation.
Yeah,
I actually am a victim first. Now I have survived it and I'm living the life, right? But do you know, Kike, that I didn't know that I was a victim cum survivor of female genital mutilation until 2020, when I went to the field to conduct a research, to film, to talk to people about what female genital mutilation is and investigate indeed if, as for example, the Oyo State government had said they were actively campaigning and working to stem the practice of female genital mutilation, if truly in the fields, in the local communities, it is so. For example, at that time, Kajola local government area had 98% prevalence rate, which meant if you were born from Kajola or from a progenitor from Kajola, you only had a 2% chance of not being caught. Today, owing to advocacy, stories like this that we tell, stories like this that we share, survivors like me who come out to talk within that local community, that prevalence rate has dropped to 92% just last year. You think 6% is small? For those of us who are on the field, in contact with the people on the field, for example, a certain amazing woman, the founder of Rural People Development Initiative in this local government area, in Oyo State, Kajola local government area, who goes about engaging stakeholders, you know, the rural women, the traditional leaders, the religious leaders, just the people in general, and schools and students. You then realize that our activities and our storytelling from time to time has produced these results. What would we had more of in that space? How many more percentage can we come back or drop down on the prevalence rate? So essentially, a Princess V.O. Adetono in Kajola local government area, a grandmother, continues to share her own story of surviving female genital mutilation. I continue to share my own story. Several other people across Nigeria, across Africa, the Middle East, in Asia, and across the other immigrant countries of the world continue to share their stories, and something, a little drop in the ocean, something happens.
You said a lot right now, and I'm coming from the angle of women being silenced and all of that, not only in this issue at hand, on so many other things. Is it that way you're going through divorce? Is it that true when women are being abused?
Violence.
You know, gender-based violence, so many other things where women are being violent. And I'm wondering,
you just shouldn't talk. Why are you talking? Why do you have a voice, Kike?
Yeah, I know.
Why are you even hosting the show?
Why are you
talking?
The platform, you know. But putting that aside, Melony, you know, you've touched on the Oyo State angle, which I want to bring to fore now, especially when it comes to your Don't Cut Our documentary, where you delve deep into the practice of the FGM in Oyo State. So what are some of the challenges, cultural differences now, especially when it comes to regulatory obstacles that you encounter during this period of documentation? How do you navigate these challenges? Because I like to call them challenges. I don't like to see them as problems, because I feel that you need to bring to fore some issues to light so that quite a number of people who are listening to us now will learn. That's my first question to you. My second question to you is that despite the enact of laws like the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act that has been enforced, it remains an uneven issue across Nigeria. From your perspective now, as a filmmaker, as a victim, as an advocate for the issue at hand, what are the key factors, Melony, that you can say that, you know, is hindering that effective, you know, implementation of this law? How should media now come to fall, especially when it comes to effective advocacy in enforcing this gap?
Thank you, Kike. And I cannot be more grateful for your passion. And I know we're going to do it behind the scene. There are some questions I should ask you, but I'm not the person asking the question on this show. And I'm going to start with the last thing, and to look at how, so the implementation. I mean, it's interesting, right, that what I would say is it is getting better. We're not where we used to be. And just as I dropped off the other time answering your question, that's a little drop in the ocean. And there is power in that little drop in the ocean. But let me go to the beginning, where you had asked, what were some of the challenges? For example, the challenges will go in two dimensions for me. The challenges I encountered trying to talk to women, conduct the research, to talk to the young people, to talk to the traditional rulers, the local excisers in Kajola local government area, for example, consisting of Isebile, Okeo, Imia, Ilua, and a few other communities like that. Number one was, for example, you look at the documentary and you see a part where we spoke to the market women, the market leaders, and you see a resistance, a sort of hesitation to not want to say to us exactly why they still want to hold on to the practice of female genital mutilation. Give it to them, these are old women. They were indoctrinated into that. They were told that was the way to go. And they simply believed it. Maybe not so much fault of theirs. We can then begin to hold it against them in after all the education and activism and advocacy and sensitization that is going into it by advocates like me, by survivors, home and abroad, by the state government itself, by UNICEF, by UNFPA, by UN Women, and a host of other stakeholders who are within non-governmental organizations across board, right? Who are within that space, if they then refuse to make a change. But what I found, very profound, what I found is that truthfully these women were aware. In fact, as at that time, Kike, there was already an open declaration in a place like Kajola where the traditional rulers had come out to say, no, we will stop it, this, that. But then comes your second question, the implementation of it. It's another thing to say, they say talk is cheap. Okay, so you've said it, and so would you force us? Are you living in my house?
Who is holding them
Do you
accountable?
Absolutely. Are you feeding my child? Would you tell me? Because one of the questions asked in the documentary by those women was, why are we even told to stop mutilating our children? You know, it's a matter of ownership. These are my children. Why are you telling me not to mutilate my children? After all, it is my culture. And culture is big. Culture is in the hearts of the people. And then you realize that people just say, we've always done this. Why should we move away? You should move away because the myths, I call them myths, those things that have been said, Kike, that makes our grandmothers, apologies, that makes our grandmothers continue to do this. For example, one, I was told, and it's in the documentary, and you can search it on YouTube, Don't Cut Her, go to Melony TV, you'd find it. And then you see something like, if you don't cut your girls, they will become prostitutes. Yeah.
Anyway, all women are prostitutes.
Anyway, whether you cut us or not, they call us prostitutes. It's not an abuse.
You know, the men want to say women are abuse. It's not an abuse.
One day, I was pregnant, heavily pregnant. I was commuting on a public transport, and I had my baby backed. Baby, are you listening? I backed my baby. I was pregnant. And one bus conductor called me, what? A prostitute.
Imagine.
I laughed because it was no longer, for me, yes, that's my label.
So listening to you, because you've said so much right now, but I don't want to lose my thought process regarding the collaboration that you've had internationally with organizations such as UNICEF, you know, UN Women, and of course UNFPA.
I am aspiring to have these
collaborations. How do you see these global partnerships, you know, influencing local strategies in our own place, in our own town, Nigeria, especially when you're looking at it from the best practices? There's no great place to work ideology, so to speak. So this collaboration, I'm asking, because doing research about it, and I've seen how you've partnered with all these top international organizations.
I'm aspiring to partner with them.
Do you think that this will help Nigeria to strengthen both awareness and enforcement? That's my first question. Apologies that I'm giving you double barrel question. I'm trying to manage your time now.
I will catch.
You know, so, but I love the energy between us, and I love the fact that, you know, you and I are passionate about things that are related to women. So having worked extensively, you know, across TV, radio, name it, all these digital platforms, and I must say that I'm truly impressed by you with all that you've done thus far, impacting the woman at the society at large. So how do you believe, or do you believe the modern, you know, multimedia platforms, you know, can further harness this education when it comes to communities about the dangers of FGM survivors, so that they will be able to come out and share their stories, and they will not be silent, because you know that the systematic change now is a challenge.
It is a challenge. You're spot on, Kike. Thank you. And you know, people would say, Melony, largely your advocacy is on social media. And may I also say, I go to local communities. Last year I wasn't able to, but 2 years ago, we were in Ogun State, Oyo State, Lagos State. 3 years ago, Ogun State, Lagos State, Oyo State. And largely riding on collaborations. So far, I've enjoyed collaborations with Bimbo Odukoya Foundation, Save Our World Foundation, Rural People Development Initiative Foundation, led by Princess V.O. Adetono in Oyo State, and a host of other, you know, individuals and non-governmental organizations. I may not be able to bring up their names. But it is key, Kike, to understand that if the local women are on TikTok, I hope you know everybody is on TikTok, then the digital platforms, quite frankly, can be used to advocate against this practice. But let me take it back against some of the things you've said. I am a believer in betting on myself. I take great leaps, right? And I believe these things are possible. I'm still looking forward to a collaboration with the UNICEF, the UNFPA, the UN, just as you have said. But I know it's just a step-by-step approach, especially when indeed there is genuineness, right, in the advocacy campaigns and sensitization materials and education that I continue, and my team, because I have a group of young, vivacious, passionate campaigners who of their own volition have joined the Don't Cut Her move, and we continue to talk about, you know, the need to stop female genital mutilation. Kike, I say to you that implementation is a big deal, but it doesn't jump on us. It is a collective effort. Currently, I'm in collaboration with FESTAC. FESTAC held last year in Kenya, Kisumu, and the ambassador of sexual and gender-based violence for FESTAC last year was Caroline Titia, a young East African girl from Turkana County in Kenya. And this very passionate lady and I met up in Kenya in January, and we put together some materials, but most importantly, a video whereby we're using to kick out our plans for the year regarding stemming female genital mutilation, and even beyond, to talking to other issues of sexual and gender-based violence. But all of this is to say the UNFPA UNICEF joint collaboration in eliminating female genital mutilation this year came up with a theme, and they said, let us step up the pace. Let us strengthen alliances and build movements to end female genital mutilation. What do they want us to do? They do not want you to stand alone. If standing alone, I am a drop in the ocean. What if we came together? We could then become maybe a sachet of water, a pure water in the ocean. If we went regional, we could become a bucket of water in the ocean. If we went continental, we could become a whole swimming pool of water in the ocean. And before you say, Jack, Kike, we have the implementation that we need. Why do we need an international day in the first place? It is to put together resources to raise all voices in a manner that it is not just a noise, but it can break through with clarity. What I am saying here, what another person is saying on another television station, radio station, in the nooks and crannies of Nigeria, Africa, Middle East, Asia, and other immigrant communities across the world, in Europe, Australia, Canada, United States, where female genital mutilation is still being practiced. What matters is that we continue to talk about it. And survivors like me need to come out more. This year we put out a call on survivors to share their stories with us. The documentary on FGM is about 3 years old now, and I'm looking to put out a sequel. But I'm looking for the sequel to be something on more survival voices. Can you share how it affects you? For example, personally, I can talk about how it impacts my sexual intercourse in my marriage. I can talk about how it impacts my childbearing processes. I've had 3 children. I can talk about a whole number of things.
The pleasure of even having intimacy.
Of having intimacy is affected for most women. It is not the same experience for all women. There are 4 types of female genital mutilation. The type 1, clitoridectomy, the core issue there is the clitoris is excised.
Melony, you are coming back on this platform. Today is not enough for this information, for this episode right now.
Absolutely.
But sorry, because I know that they are pressed for time and all of that, and I want to get a lot of juice from you. But quickly, let's go on a quick break, and when I return, the conversation will continue. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Melony.
Absolutely.
All right, glad to know you're still right there with us. In case you just joined the show, we are in the midst of an eye-opening conversation on female genital mutilation and the Nigerian girl. Thus far, we've discussed how FGM continues to be a persistent issue in Nigeria, despite laws meant to curb it, and of course we've delved into the cultural, the physical, and the psychological impact on survivors, and we've also had real talk on the challenges facing our legal frameworks and the critical role that community leaders, health professionals and media advocates have in combating this practice. And Melony, Ishola, my esteemed guest, have provided us with deep insight, giving us a background and the advocacies that she has dedicated her career to in the course of anti-female genital mutilation. I must say again, many thanks for all you've shared thus far, and for holding the flag of this issue at hand. And I love the fact that you're wearing the shirt now. Don't cut your brand. But quickly, let me open the phone lines for those who want to be part of this conversation. Remember that you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio number 07068653440. We've changed our number, so I don't know it offhand right now. And of course, we're streaming live on Facebook, both on Real Talk with Kike platform and Silverbird platform. Melony, quickly, in your experience as a TV and radio presenter and diction coach, maybe that's the word to use now. I know one of my former producer who produced me for $300. She's
big and
she's
huge
on
diction.
Sometimes she will tell me
phenomenally.
You just say thank you. You say thank you.
you.
I say,
Leave me
you
alone.
do not think that I'm speaking in the right English. But about being a diction coach, what strategies have proven most effective in terms of the community and religious leaders right now, knowing that Nigeria, we are set in our ways, and the language thing is also an issue.
Thank you, Kike. Just
as
speak their language.
Policy maker now.
Language.
Okay, let me let you
when I last went, 2 years ago when I last visited with my team, the Don't Cutter team, Kajola local government area, we went to schools, we went to the local leaders, the ballets. I spoke Yoruba. I wasn't speaking thank you. Let me go pidgin way. Who thank you? Baba don't cutter. Baba don't do it. Mama don't do it. Leave the girl child alone. We were born perfect.
Yeah.
Preserve us just the same way God has made us. The clitoris is important, not just for a pleasure for the woman, but equally it aids in the process of childbirth for the woman. Contrary to the myth that it is a taboo for the clitoris to compete with the penis during intercourse, it is a taboo for the clitoris to touch the head of the baby during childbirth. All sort of things. These things are not scientifically proven. Please help preserve the girl child. The future of the girl child is totally in your hands as the parents and guardians of our culture.
I'm happy that you just spoke to the camera right now in terms of preservation of the girl child. This would be my last question to you, because I was going to ask you that. So as both a journalist and a filmmaker, what strategies have you adopted or found effective in using media now to raise awareness about this harmful impact of FGM. And the reason why I'm bringing this to fall is because coming from a scientific angle now, you know, I researched about this before coming to the studio, and I realized that, you know, some don't see it as a libel. However, you look at it, I was shocked. They see it as a female circumcision, as men are equally being circumcised at birth. And the argument is that for the girl child, when she grows up into a woman, you know, the parts being trimmed, you know, trimmed off.
I love when you say it like that.
To reduce her libido. Let's keep it
She needs the libido. She needs the libido.
She needs the libido.
She needs the libido. She needs the libido. I've been married 10 years, and I can say to you, Kike, that a woman needs a libido. Do not disenfranchise a woman from the pleasure that God has naturally packed for her. Necessary. Do you know that the clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings? The penis has 3,000 nerve endings.
I read that today.
The clitoris has at least two times more nerve endings than the penis. It means that God did put it there for a reason. A woman needs to also be able to express her sexual fantasies. It is not a crime. Whereas what is a crime is when you continue to court your girls. In close to 30 countries, states in Nigeria today, there has been the domestication of the VAP Act. And I say to you, it means it is a crime. If you are caught culpable of courting your girl, and I am hoping as part of our advocacy on the Don't Contact move, that we are able to actually get to a point, just as it is with the sexual offenders diary that we have, that we can actually have the female genital mutilation offenders diary. Your name will enter there. I'm hoping there's a policy we can bring to bear.
Absolutely.
And equally ensure that somebody gets prosecuted on account of female genital mutilation in Nigeria. So it drives home that this is a crime.
All right.
Please.
Again, I want
Emma
to say. The clitoris is necessary.
And you know, they go beyond the clitoris sometimes in other types of FGM. They cut the labia minora, the labia majora, and in type 3, they sew together the lips of the vulva. You ask yourself why. I believe I should be back on the show.
No, you must be back. I
feel the energy
right now. But you know what? I wish that you have more time that we can actually discuss. But before I let you go, I need you to lend your voice to this just in 1 minute, you know, which is the last segment of the show that we call Trending Stories. These are stories that affect you and I as Nigerians, as Africans. And the first trending story, this is where I have an opinion. You know, the first trending story that caught my attention is that of the freeze that backs health ministers claim that patients from UK and US fly to Nigeria for medical attention. Melony, when I saw this, I was like, to be honest though, people actually fly back to Nigeria. I would like to just commend the recent statement by the coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, that's Professor Mohammed Ali Pate or something, I hope I pronounced that properly, and the media personality that the freeze, you know, that shows Nigeria's potential as a destination for medical tourism, not just the December dirty whatever. You know, I just got this observation resonates with personal experiences such as that of a brilliant, you know, acquaintances who, due to prolonged waiting lists and challenges in finding suitable donor in the UK, has opted to undergo surgery in Nigeria. So this shift is attributed to factors such as, you know, prolonged waiting lists, like I said earlier, high cost of medical procedures abroad. Have
you considered the cost of travel tickets?
Yeah, it's also essential to recognize that while Nigeria is becoming a destination for medical tourism, the best medical care within the country remains, you know, expensive for many citizens. Hospitals just like Evercare, you know, Redington, Landmark, you know, offer world-class services, but their fees are beyond the reach of the average Nigerian.
They are elitist.
The Nigerian government has the capacity and the responsibility to make quality health care more affordable, more accessible, investing in the health sector in not just as a moral imperative but also an economy one. So as highlighted by the Lancet Nigerian Commission, increasing health expenditure by the little as maybe $30 per capita annually, you know, we could substantially improve what's it called, the coverage of essential healthcare systems, so leading to a better outcome, better life outcome in Nigeria, and of course enhance economic productivity. But to achieve this, the government should also focus on several key areas.
Absolutely.
And the National Health Insurance Scheme, that's the NHIS. You know, despite its goal of providing affordable healthcare, the NHI currently covers less than 5% of Nigerians, with 70%, you know, financing from the healthcare independence. You know, yes. I feel like if I address this issue back and forth, we will not leave here. But let me let you go, please.
Absolutely. So yes, in even less than 1 minute.
And also the brain drain. No, let's touch on the brain drain.
Yes. So while it is not a lie, that a lot of Nigerians, or maybe even non-Nigerians, I'm not certain, come to Nigeria to get medical attention, to medical care, and a number of them quite successfully also. It is also key to look at the statistics of that. I love that relativity. What is the percentage of those who come back for that treatment? And what is the percentage of those who are on the waiting list to fly out of the country to go and get medical attention? I feel like this is a staggering margin that needs to be earnestly looked into, and to land by borrowing something that Kike has just said, and to say, so we have the NHIS for what? Can we ensure that the NHIS actually does give the cover that it should give for the people that it is meant for? That's my take on this. But indeed, it is not a lie that there are a number of things. I know people who have done IVF outside of the country unsuccessfully and came back to Nigeria and did it successfully. So I rate the medical system here. I know it is said, may Nigeria not happen to you, truthfully. And the brain drain makes it worse, truthfully. But then to access this kind of health care that the Honorable Minister is speaking to, then you have to be amongst the 1% of the 1% of Nigeria.
May Nigeria not happen to you, but let me change that notion to say, may Nigeria happen for us.
Amen. Thank you.
A healthy nation is indeed a wealthy world or a nation. So I must say many thanks again for lending your voice on the issues at hand right now, and definitely you will be back on this platform. I need you, Melony Ishola, for bringing it on as it is and keeping it real. You know, I wish you the very best as you continue to lend your voice on this show, and I wish you God's wisdom in navigating the different human behaviors, especially all these men, all these ill men.
And we need the men too in this advocacy. Absolutely.
But you know, sometimes they need a lot of reorientation on learning and relearning to make sure that the girl child is protected. On this note, this is where I draw the curtains of the show. Till I come your way next week, remember to be kind to one another. Bye now.